On this edition of the program, Nikki Haley's big announcement, and my mom joins the show to give her analysis and indeed an endorsement for 2024. It's all coming up. Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics program for Friday, May 24th, 2024. Your old pal, Justin Robert Young, joining you from Austin, Texas. Recorded this early because I'm in D.C. right now. Oh, look at that. D.C. Still, plenty to talk about, and this is the season that I love. Oh, do I love it? Oh, do I love it so? Because the Lord provides. The political gods rain news down upon us. And it was on Wednesday afternoon that Nikki Haley made her decision. Let's go ahead and take a look at it now.
I put my priorities on a president who's going to have the backs of our allies and hold our enemies to account, who would secure the border, no more excuses. A president who would support capitalism and freedom. A president who understands we need less debt, not more debt. Trump has not been perfect on these policies. I've made that clear many, many times. But Biden has been a catastrophe. So I will be voting for Trump. Having said that, I stand by what I said in my suspension speech. Trump would be smart to reach out to the millions of people who voted for me and continue to support me and not assume that they're just going to be with him. And I genuinely hope he does that.
That was a speech at the Hudson Institute, and it ends any speculation that Nikki Haley would be a Biden surrogate, that she would reject Trump, put a final nail in the coffin of the Donald Trump experience. With this, and most likely some kind of speaking slot at the Republican National Convention, the GOP Pangea has been reunited. After the primary, the biggest free radicals were Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. Ron DeSantis meets with Trump a couple weeks ago. We talked to Kimberly Leonard about that. And now here, Nikki Haley. So, here are the questions. Why? When was this something that she definitely knew that she had to do? And how did she plan to do it? Let's start with the why. And it's a simple one. Because she's a Republican. You know, in a different world, maybe you have some flirtation with the no labels people or something like that. You run third party, you deny Donald Trump the White House. And in a world where Trumpism is being reevaluated, you can sneak in. But ultimately, that's a lot of mousetrap, Rube Goldberg stuff. Nikki Haley is a Republican. She was a Republican governor. She ran in the Republican primary. She continues to get votes from Republicans. If she wants to continue to have a career, that's the party she needs to be in. This stuff doesn't translate. Let's go with the Biden fever dream. Nikki Haley becomes Secretary of State, right? Anthony Blinken, you keep on rocking in the free world. I know a couple dive bars in Kyiv where you can gig. Nikki Haley comes on in. Do you think that she's going to have any love from Democrats? That constituency can't agree on Biden. You're telling me that they're going to agree on her? They're not. It was never going to happen. I've been curious about how much time Biden has put into trying to court her voters, but this was always where it was going to end up. The A+++ Republican National Convention involves big speeches by everybody that was involved in the primary, except Chris Christie. The two biggest names, as we mentioned before, are Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis looks like he is on track for that to happen, and now so does Nikki Haley. You give her either a more prominent position on night one, or do you give her a really early slot, 15 minutes on one of the more watched nights? But it's going to happen now. Will she ever be taken in by MAGA? No, I don't think so. But then again, she might. Here's why. It's the when. Why was the one before? Here's the when. When did she decide to do this? I'm going to tell you it's those New York Times polls. The ones that we covered last week with Evan Scrimshaw. I told you that these are those decision gate moments. I felt it in my bones. But I think what we saw with that quote, with that decision by Nikki Haley, is downstream from big donors and power players that are not terminal never Trumpers. They just don't like Trump. And so they backed Nikki Haley, hoping that the Republican Party wanted something different. But when you look at those numbers and you say, oh, geez, it's not like the Democratic message isn't resonating, because it's resonating with some of these Senate candidates. It's just not resonating with Joe Biden. If you're center right, but you hate Trump, it's kind of a path diverged in the wood. Do you stay with people that are more akin to where you're coming from? Or do you gamble on somebody that right now looks like the opposite of his main selling position, which is safety? And that's Joe Biden. Joe Biden isn't safe. Joe Biden is a risky gamble. And so, as far as these kinds of things go, Nikki Haley could go as far as the RNC. She could say, vote your conscience, like Ted Cruz did before he got booed. But Ted Cruz eventually bent the knee. So, you do it now because you don't believe in Joe Biden's electoral chances. Everything that was supposed to turn the tide for him has not. And now the how. The how is the Hudson Institute. She wants to remain a dignified power player. This is the kind of stuff you're going to see from Nikki Haley from now until 2028. I assume she's going to write another book. I assume maybe she'll start a podcast. Nikki, come on the show. I'd love to talk to you. But she wants to present herself as a steely-eyed foreign policy wonk. Liz Cheney without the full ejection. And it's because Nikki Haley is going to follow the heat. That's what she's going to do. She's always done. There is not a position that Nikki Haley won't flip-flop. Or at least there is not a northern star for which she won't change her mind on. She's been all over every issue. So I didn't think she was a great candidate. I still would not put her high up on my list of 2028 possibles. I would bet on DeSantis more than Haley going into 28. But my biggest takeaway is this. Nikki Haley doesn't believe in Joe Biden. If Nikki Haley believed that this was a 50-50 toss-up, I think she would have waited longer. She would have waited closer to the convention. And I don't know what kind of conversations are happening behind the scenes. Apparently there's a lot of back channeling going on. Maybe I can put my ear to the pavement when I'm up in D.C., but this is a belief that Trump is, if not inevitable, he's the favorite. And if Trump is the favorite, then any kind of positioning against him becomes more and more futile. Still, big surprise from Nikki Haley. And you're going to get first reaction from my mom a little bit later after this. This is your update brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. That's where you need to go to get 2 bonus episodes each and every week on this show, including things that we missed totally on these shows. Mondays had me talking about the missing and now dead Iranian president. And Thursday's episode have all of your... I know everybody was very excited to see what I think about the snap elections called by Rishi Sunak there in the United Kingdom. Well, if you ain't on the team, get on the team right now. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. For the price of a literal cup of coffee each week, you can have, double the episodes. Come on. It's a pretty good deal. Now, to some more updates. Senior leaders from both parties are working to finalize an invitation for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to address Congress, though it may not happen quickly, as Speaker Mike Johnson prefers. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer confirmed that he, Johnson, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, as well as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, are coordinating on the matter. Schumer, who has previously criticized Netanyahu, has agreed to the invitation, but progress has been slow. I'm going to say intentionally so because the last thing Chuck Schumer wants is Netanyahu talking in America while anything is happening in Rafah. Johnson mentioned that while he hasn't spoken directly to Chuck, their aides are in communication, emphasizing an urgency due to time constraints. A source indicated that congressional leadership is still working on logistics. The invitation negotiations have occurred amid criticism from congressional Democrats and the Biden administration over Israel's action in Gaza. Now, despite these tensions, Schumer has reaffirmed his support for inviting Netanyahu, emphasizing the enduring relationship between the United States and Israel. And he doesn't have a choice. If a foreign leader, especially one that we are talking a lot about, wants to come address Congress, he can. Doesn't mean that everybody in Congress has to love him, and almost assuredly there will be some pushback to Netanyahu. But it'll also be very interesting to see how the White House handles him. I don't believe he will be getting the Zelensky treatment. He will not be getting a flag and a Bible and a pat on the back. No, it's going to be mixed. Certainly not the first time that Netanyahu has come to the United States, and not the first time that he has come to the United States under mixed feelings, but we will see how it goes. House Oversight and Accountability Committee Chair James Comer and Representative Katie Porter have introduced a bill requiring presidents and vice presidents to disclose foreign earnings and gifts received by themselves and their immediate families, both during the 2 years before and after their tenure. They must also share tax returns for the same period, a measure that would have compelled former President Donald Trump to release his tax filings. However, the bill does not mandate disclosures for companies owned by family members or businesses transferred to family within 4 years. The legislation aims to address influence peddling and enhance transparency in the executive branch. White House spokesperson Ian Sams highlighted Biden's commitment to ethics, citing his 26 years of publicly releasing tax returns. Additionally, Representative Jamie Raskin of Maryland introduced a separate bill to require federal officials to seek congressional approval before accepting foreign payments, addressing Trump's emoluments clause violations. So this is a little bit of interesting bipartisanship. James Comer was the one who led the investigation into Hunter Biden and Burisma and the art sales and everything that went along. He painted, at least for many, a compelling picture of influence peddling, if there was no quote-unquote smoking gun. And so he now teams with a very progressive senator, Katie Porter, to say that going forward, there should be tools by Congress that compel some of this information to get out. Will it go anywhere? Absolutely not. But it's funded. Former Republican presidential nominee Vivek Ramashwamy acquired a 7.7% stake in BuzzFeed, causing shares to surge over 50% in pre-market trading to $4.15, their highest since March 2023. The filing reveals Ramashwamy's intention to act as an activist investor, aiming to shift the company's strategy. He purchased 2.7 million shares between March 14th and May 21st at prices between 154 and 251 using personal funds to do so. BuzzFeed has struggled since its public debut in December of 21, recently implementing a reverse stock split, tying executive compensation to stock performance. It's rough out here for media. I'll put it this way. I have a friend at BuzzFeed. They texted me, I love this for me, with a sick to their stomach face. I don't think that anybody at BuzzFeed is going to love the idea that Vivek Ramashwamy is now somebody that the brass needs to listen to. It does echo a little bit of the Elon and Twitter stuff, although I think Vivek has learned that lesson and don't buy a money-losing property at the highest possible value. However, it is interesting to see any kind of investment in media properties. Mostly because, like, why? What are you going to get out of it? You can probably start a smaller and more agile company that's going to make waves. Unless, and Vivek has talked a lot about how important Elon Musk buying Twitter was because it revealed the cooperation between intelligence agencies and Twitter. BuzzFeed was the first place to publish the Steele dossier. You almost wonder whether or not that kind of investment would be worthwhile just so he could get his hands on things that he put out publicly. Makes you think, IMO. That's your update. TakePoliticsSeriously.com is where you need to go if you want to get 2 bonus episodes each and every week, including this Thursday's live from D.C. Now, my mom. By far, the most popular guest that we have had on this podcast since its inception is my mom, Gloria Young. Welcome, Gloria, back to the show.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
We actually have news. I have news for you as we record this on Wednesday afternoon.
More news?
More news.
It's not as shocking as the last set of news you had for me, is it?
Oh, that my wife is with child and you're going to have a third grandchild?
Yeah.
That was shocking news. I don't think this is as shocking. This you probably could have seen coming more than me having a kid at 41. But this is it was kind of a touch and go thing. Nikki Haley has endorsed Donald Trump for president.
Wow.
She did it at a speech in which she said that Joe Biden is a catastrophe and that while Donald Trump is not perfect on the issues that matter most to her, she is going to be supporting him for president. This comes after Joe Biden has spent a little bit of money and a lot of strategic capital trying to cleave those Haley voters away from the Republicans. And now Nikki Haley endorsing old Donnie Trump. What your thoughts, Gloria Young?
I am definitely shocked. I'm also disappointed, actually.
You thought more of Nikki?
I did. And I thought she had more strength or fortitude to stand her ground about him. But that truly does shock me.
Why? She's a Republican. She's going to back the Republican nominee. She wants to run in Republican politics in the future. Like, this is my curiosity is that, like, people found this shocking. It's usually what happens 9 times out of 10.
It usually is what happens when the candidate is not Donald Trump.
Yeah. And so that's it. This is so a real sellout to the never Trump crowd.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people are going to be, all the ones that supported her will probably be just as shocked as I am.
Yeah, but the problem is that all those that supported her still got her blown out by 15 points in her home state. So at the end of the day, there were not enough of them for her to bank a political future on.
No, I mean, clearly there weren't, but nevertheless, I think that's going to surprise a lot of people.
I think so too.
A lot of people that have been Republicans for many years and believe in the Republican principles, who feel like Donald Trump has failed them in that regard. I think those people will be very disappointed and shocked.
I think there are a few. There are a few in my orbit specifically that I'm curious their responses. I have texted them to see how they're doing. But I think it was a good thing to start with you here, because I know initially you were even the biggest shock of all. You never said you would vote for Donald Trump, but you paused for long enough that it shocked me when I suggested maybe if Nikki Haley was the VP, it's something that you would consider.
No,
you like
no,
Nikki
no,
Haley.
No.
You paused. You paused.
No,
you lingered.
no.
You lingered.
No, I said never, never, never. It didn't
You
matter.
lingered.
You asked me that. I said
You
no,
lingered.
never, never would I vote for him, regardless of who he chose as his running mate.
Even if she were a heartbeat away from the presidency.
No, I would never vote for him. Never, ever, 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 never.
All right. Well, let's start there. I think it's pretty clear where you stand. If you've never listened to an interview with my mom before, she used to be a very important voter, somebody that has voted for Republicans and has voted for Democrats in the past. She lives in what used to be a swing state, now is essentially Alabama. It is a pretty solid red state in the central Florida area. But still, I do think that you are a weather vane, not only on the Trump side, but also on the Biden side. So let's just catch everybody up. It sounds like nothing has changed about your opinion when it comes to Donald Trump.
No. As a matter of fact, maybe I dislike him a little more.
What is the most
more
recent thing that's
concerned.
gotten in your craw about old Donnie Trump?
Basically, some of his comments about what he anticipates or what his term would look like. I am scared to death that if he becomes president, that we'll never get rid of him until he dies, that our democracy will crumble, and that we will all lose our freedom and liberty.
So the fact that didn't happen in 2020, that doesn't temper that at all?
Well, he was still trying to figure things out, and now he has the that little bit more knowledge, and so now he knows kind of how to play the game. And I fear that, he admires dictators and autocratic societies, and I think that's what he wants to be.
So this is
That's very
exactly
frightening.
this is exactly where the Biden campaign wants their voters to be. That is the number one thing when it comes to Donald Trump. He is an autocrat. He is a dictator. He is somebody that will not only remove rights like abortion that have already been damaged by one Trump administration, but he will take away all of your rights. And
Yes.
so you are saying that is something that you very much agree with.
I very much agree, and I'm very, very afraid, very scared. I'm scared for my grandchildren. You're going to have a daughter.
Yeah, I will.
You should be too.
I mean, okay, but what does it say that I'm not?
I don't know. I don't think you're thinking it through.
That's all I think about. I think about this stuff every day. I've degraded my life thinking about this every second of every day.
You cover politics as your career, but that doesn't mean that your personal thoughts can't be, personal to you.
It is true. It is true. My personal thoughts are personal. All right, so let's take the Trump stuff. We're going to put it up on the counter for now, because what I did really want to talk to you about is the other side of this, and that is Joe Biden. So with the understanding that you would never vote for Donald Trump ever in your life, I do know one of the other core tenets of my mother's political philosophy is that old people need to step aside sometimes, and especially in politics. You were not a gigantic fan of Joe Biden in the 2020 primary. You very much liked Mayor Pete. There are a lot of questions as to the competency of Joe Biden going forward. So we're going to try and head off any sentence that begins with "but Trump." Let's focus on the Biden side of this. What are your thoughts on the 46th president of the United States, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., as he enters into this cycle?
Look, I got to give him credit. I mean, with everything that's going on in the world right now, he's got a lot of plates spinning between Ukraine, Russia, and China now becoming buddies, Israel, Hamas. He's still trying to do the right thing, and he's trying to do the right thing for the American people. He's still trying to push through immigration reform, even though the Republicans are making it very difficult, almost impossible for him to do so.
That's a sham, Mom. That's a sham. They want votes for the Senate candidates. They know that, because half their party isn't going to vote for it this time.
Well, look, they had a bipartisan deal about a month ago that could have passed. It could have passed.
Well, it also was for the Ukraine money. That's what the deal was for.
Well,
and now they're going to put a standalone thing, but it's probably going to get less votes. Well, the first one didn't get any votes at all because they didn't put it up because they knew it was DOA, but
but
it
the
probably would have gotten more.
He's still trying. He is still trying.
Still trying would be a good slogan. Joe Biden, still trying.
Well, bottom line, again, I do agree that he's old, but
okay.
I think that under the circumstances, I think he's doing the best that he possibly can.
Yeah.
And I got to give him credit for hanging in there and hanging tough and not dealing in all the little petty, childish nonsense.
Yeah.
He's not getting involved with all of the name calling and the shaming and he's just doing his job.
He definitely talks a lot less mess than old Trump did back in his term. But let me ask you this. So that is one way of looking at it, that the world is a very complicated place. It has only gotten more complicated over the last 3 years. And so it is up to Joe Biden to try and deal with these scenarios. He didn't pick the cards that were dealt to him. The other side of that coin is that Joe Biden got into the White House and all of a sudden the world lit on fire. And we had a bad exit out of Afghanistan. Putin felt emboldened enough to invade Ukraine. And we have seen over the last 6 months the most vicious, brutal, bleak violence in the Middle East that I've seen in my lifetime. So that is something that you are looking at. That is like just a random number generator. That's just what happened under his watch. You don't think that he has any culpability for things being as out of control as they are?
No, I don't think so. Can
I ask you a question? If this had happened under Trump, would you believe that he was and his mean tweets were responsible for this?
Well, look, I mean, there's no question that Putin has been chomping at the bit to get into Ukraine, whether or not Biden was president or anybody who was president. I think it would have happened no matter what, number one, with Ukraine.
If Trump had won re-election, this was happening.
I think it would have happened no matter what. I mean, you think just because Trump was going to be would be president that Putin would be scared? Ooh, I'm not going to invade Ukraine because Donnie will get mad at me. I mean, are you kidding?
Well, all right. So there's
what he wants to do.
There's a few ways to look at it, and this is stuff that I've heard from the kind of more right-wing folks. One argument is that everything got set into motion with Afghanistan, and that as soon as Afghanistan was a total disaster, that you essentially sent a press release to anybody who wanted to do anything, that the Biden Defense Department and State Department were not up to snuff. And so now is the time to act if you are going to act. And that's essentially what we've seen with Putin and, to a lesser extent, Hamas in Israel. The other side would be that Donald Trump is such a chaotic X factor that you have no idea whether or not he's going to yell at you at the UN, is he going to tweet something bad, or is he going to launch a nuke into Moscow? You don't know, because no one knows, because he's a chaos agent, and that held the world at bay in a way that Biden will not ever be that. Biden will never be the person who's tweeting at Kim Jong-un, "I dare you to press your button, I'll press mine and mine works," which was an actual tweet sent while I was in Japan. And I'm like, can we knock it off? Like, because if it doesn't work, it lands on me.
Yeah.
But those would be the two arguments as to why it would be different under Trump.
Honestly, I just don't see that it would be different. I really don't. I really don't. I think everything that happened would have happened regardless,
no matter what,
of who was in the White House. Yes, my personal
and that Biden is doing as good of a job as anyone was going to do in this scenario.
Yes, and it's incredibly difficult. I do believe that the money that we're. What are you laughing at?
Sorry. I told you that I had sent the Nikki Haley news to a few friends of mine that I knew were like Nikki Haley super fans that did not believe she would cave to Trump. And I just got a text message. It popped up. This is very unprofessional. But he just texted me back with the F word. And then I hate everything. So this is not going over well in the never Trump world.
See, I told you, I think a lot of the Nikki Haley supporters are going to be very upset with that position. And shame on her. She could still has a future in politics whether or not she supported.
No,
anyway.
she's a Republican. She needs to not piss off the modern Republican coalition. It's very, very easy. Okay, there we go. We did already talk about it. So the foreign policy thing, I think we went over. I would say that if I'm Joe Biden and I am judging my reelection chances based solely on the opinions of Gloria Young, I'm hearing everything that I want right now. Donald Trump's a threat to democracy. There's no blame on him for the foreign policy thing. Well, let me ask you this domestically, because ultimately everybody only cares about domestic policy. How would you judge Joe Biden's handling of the economy?
Well, I do think that we cannot lose sight of the fact that the pandemic was, such a unique situation and the resulting, after effect of the pandemic.
Yeah.
That, anyone to have taken over after all of that happened would have been faced with the same issue. I mean, our inflation rate here in this country is much better than any other country right now.
True.
And yes, things are expensive. I don't blame Biden for that. I think that is all driven by the manufacturers. I think they were all kind of loving that. We can raise our prices and make more money, and we have a great excuse. And you know what? I know, because I know what my own company does, and it's greed.
Greedflation. Greedflation is what the Biden
corporate greed.
It's also just economics. People raise prices when things are expensive, and then if the market can bear it, they hold it until they see a lack of returns, and then they drop prices.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like right now they're making all of this money, and they don't want to give it up.
Yeah.
Why should they lower prices? People are still buying, people are still paying, you know.
Yeah.
I don't, I don't think that that's the administration's fault. I mean, yes, they can certainly encourage manufacturers. Maybe there are other things that they can do. Maybe there are some penalties or something. I don't know. I don't know how they can control how manufacturers price things.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the economy is 100% Biden's fault.
You once came on this show and talked about, I think, the first Republican candidate that you've ever voted for, and it was because Jimmy Carter had a terrible record on inflation. What is different between then and now?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, I was probably 23 years old and pretty naive at the time. But at that point, I was newly married. We were trying to buy a house, and interest rates for mortgages were 11%. It was crazy. And again, I mean, I don't know. I didn't follow politics very much in those days. I was rather young and naive. I thought Jimmy Carter was a nice man. But when Reagan came in and he started turning things around with his economic plan, and all of a sudden interest rates dropped and we were able to get a mortgage, made me happy. But I don't think that our economy is in that same, dire straits right now. Yes, interest rates are a little bit higher than we would all like them to be, but our inflation rate has come down substantially since the Biden administration has come in, and, Jerome Powell has been carefully monitoring everything. And
so carefully with a fine-tooth comb, Jerome Powell. Monitoring. I mean, they said that it was transitory initially. They didn't say that it was going to be, that inflation was transitory and that we weren't going to see sustained hikes. That wasn't true.
Well, but
seems like he could have monitored it closer at that point.
Inflation rate has come down, though, for us.
Yes, no, it had, but that's not like the stuff that happened before. It's not in deflation. It's just escalating slower.
But what the Fed ultimately decides to do with interest rates is not controlled by the administration, right? The Fed does what it wants to do.
Yes and no. I mean, there is a collaboration. There was with Carter that Volcker went to Carter and asked how he wanted to deal with the kind of rising inflation. They wound up raising interest rates quite a bit, and it cost Carter in many ways his presidency. I don't think it's fuzzy. Ultimately, the Fed allegedly does what they want, but there is a consultation.
I'm sure that there is, discussion and consultation between those parties. There's no question about that. But ultimately, the administration does not have full control over what the Fed does. They can't. They don't tell them you must do this and make this happen. So
I think messaging is coordinated, and I did feel that there was it could have been more honest when they were talking about transitory inflation, because it wasn't transitory inflation. It was a serious inflation hike.
Yeah. Well, again, I think
so. There we go. So this is just, it's just a thing that happens. It happens because of the disruption to the supply chain. You don't think that any of the government spending that happened once Biden got in had anything to do with it?
Can we talk about the government spending that Trump did?
Yeah, we can. Sure. I told you that we were going to have to try to stay away from Trump.
I know. But
the last package that came through was substantially larger than either of the two that happened during the Trump the Trump campaign, the Trump administration, and those two were in the middle of a lockdown. The Biden one happened after businesses had kind of opened up more.
Yeah, that's true. But look, the infrastructure plan was a fantastic package, desperately needed, very,
Are you
very
on the
long
campaign?
overdue.
Are you on the Biden campaign? Because you know the talking points nearly word for word. Are
I
you
mean,
being paid?
of course not.
Because you know all. I swear, I'm actually impressed. Like this is like watching Corinne
I
Jean Pierre.
I read the news. I mean,
Which
I mean,
news? Which news? We're
actually,
gonna suss this out?
I don't read the news.
Uh
I
huh.
listen to the news.
Which
I
news?
watch mainly PBS.
Okay, well there we go. We nailed it. We got it. we know the news source that is repeating the Biden talking
I
points
know, but
nearly
I mean,
exactly.
I find PBS to be the most neutral and factual. I don't find it to be slanted one way or the other. They speak facts and they speak the truth.
So what
So,
is the thing that you would be most critical about the Biden administration thus far? What is the thing that you think has not happened to your specifications?
um, what has not happened?
Yeah, because we
Honestly,
already got to infrastructure. That's
yeah.
what they love to talk about infrastructure.
Well, I mean, that was so necessary. I think
It usually is. There's a reason why it doesn't happen usually. It's because of exactly why it's happening now is that nobody really cares about it. It's hard to campaign on. It's great for legacy. If you have a bridge built, it might be named after you or named after the senator that voted for it or whatever. But it's hard to campaign on immediately, which is why infrastructure very rarely happens.
well, and
But
that's
but
true.
it happened with Biden, so credit to
I
him.
mean, it is true that nobody really sees the effects of that money that was allocated for infrastructure. They won't
Yeah,
see those effects until Biden's probably dead. That's
which
probably when they'll see the effects.
you know
Well,
could be
okay,
any
let's
day
not
now.
talk about that.
Let's not. Let's not. Let's not.
But
The thing you like least about the Biden administration.
I'm trying to think of what I like least.
You got to
I
have one thing.
I I I can't think of anything that I
Literally.
dislike
That
or
he's a
that I'm
shambling
so
that he's a
disappointed.
shambling corpse. You didn't like him in 2020. You were so much meaner about this man in 2020.
I
You've fallen in
said,
love with him.
no, I'm not in love with him.
You are in
I
big
just,
ooey gooey love with him.
no, no, I am
143.
not.
You love him.
I
You write
am
him
not.
love notes.
I am not.
You want to kiss him.
No, I am not in love with him.
I'm
I'm
just
not
saying,
at
sounds
all.
like it.
I, I mean, look, we'd only have two choices, or we have the
Okay,
wackadoo
yes.
whose
I,
brain is half eaten with by a worm. I mean, what choices do we have?
we're not talking about the choices. I'm trying to get your perspective on it. A lot of people who listen to this show really value your perspective. And the age thing doesn't even matter to you anymore. The fact that he would be the
Of,
oldest person elected.
of course, that matters.
Okay, so
Of
that's the number
course,
one
it
thing.
matters.
The number one thing is that he's 81 years old.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. Would I love to be talking about a candidate that is 55? Of course.
Yeah.
No, but we don't have that option.
So
So,
you are packed in. You are solid. This is a ride or die. Got to elect Biden. Vote blue, no matter who.
yeah, that's
That's where
that's
this
my
is.
that's my stance, and I'm sticking to it.
All right. So
Um,
what happens on election night when Trump wins? Like, is it a big tall glass of wine? Like, is it a
I
contemplative stare off your porch? What
it's
what
a
what happens?
it's a run to the toilet and vomit, and then start to worry about how our life will change, and I will never stop worrying until I never have to hear his name again.
Yeah. Why do you think he's doing so well?
I am completely baffled about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how with everything that he has said and done, and all the criminal issues and the indictments and the insurrection and the things that he continues to say, I don't understand how people are still loving him and thinking he's going to be a great leader. I mean, he only cares about himself.
By the numbers, it's because people remember his economy fondly before the pandemic.
And
More
which-
than they believe that this
which
economy
was
is working for
year,
them.
A year, 2 years, right?
It's 3 years. 3 years, yeah.
3 years.
2017
Well, the pandemic was
to
in 2020. Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
All right. So 3 years. So what is it about the economy that under Trump that people liked so much?
Well, by the things that seem to have motivated the electorate, it certainly is not the employment rate. It was low under Trump. It's very low under Biden.
It's low.
Interest rates were lower. People could buy houses. People could borrow money.
That's probably the only thing, right?
And inflation was not where it was. Like real household earnings
That was
were
all
higher.
because we didn't have a pandemic that we had to deal with and the after effects. So, and look at the stock market now. Hit another record.
Yeah. It did.
You
It
know?
did. But that's the thing is, I kind of think that there's like a hierarchy of when people think about the economy, is the economy good or bad? There's like a hierarchy of it. And so it's like you kind of have to go in order. And the number one thing is either gas prices or grocery prices. Because that's the thing that if they're high, they kick people in the ass
Every day.
once a week,
Every
right?
day.
Or twice a week when it comes to both of them. So if gas is high and if groceries are high, you are like, this sucks twice a week. And that's going to happen more than you checking your stock portfolio, unless you're like a day trader or something. It's going to matter more than you applying for a mortgage, unless you were really counting on buying a house like this year and you were waiting for it and now all the plans are screwed. The one thing that really, really, really kicks people in the pants are gas and food prices. And those are high right now. And so I don't think, and they were low under Trump.
I agree. And I'm still trying to figure out how gas prices go up or down by 40 cents in a matter of 2 or 3 days. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. So
Yeah.
however and whoever decides gas prices, it's real sketchy to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand how it works. I don't know who makes those decisions and who decides the prices. You would think it would all be with supply and demand. There's plenty of supply. We're producing more oil than we ever have before.
He can't talk about that though, or else the environmental liberals get mad at him. That's true though. I think he should be talking about that more.
He probably should.
Yeah.
But then why, and again, to me, it comes back to corporate greed. Is it the oil producers that are making the decisions on how much a barrel of oil is going to trade at? How is all that determined? How are these prices at the gas pump? How are they really? Who makes those decisions? And again,
Well, I mean, they vary by city.
It's the administration.
They vary by city and state because of various taxes and stuff like that. But in general, the barrel of oil fluctuates by what it's trading. That is a global phenomenon, although OPEC very much has a thumb on the scale. But now the Biden administration needs Saudi Arabia, the biggest voice in OPEC, because they need Saudi Arabia to try and broker a deal in Israel. So
Yeah.
they're in no position to dictate anything to Saudi Arabia to back off and make oil cheaper.
Yeah. And and the groceries are the same thing. Once again, it comes down to corporate greed. It's
So you're all in on greedflation.
yeah.
All in. Mom,
Yeah.
you should volunteer. You've got all of the talk. You should make phone calls for the Biden administration. You know all of the talking points. You can call other seniors throughout America in
Not
swing
my
states.
thing.
No, you're going to be getting on the phone. You're going to be talking to people in Nevada and Arizona and Michigan and Wisconsin. Hello, have you heard the good news? Joe Biden is here for you. Fighting Joe is ready to deliver for America. You can get the script. It's going to be great.
Not my thing. Besides, how many phone calls do you get a day that you ignore because they're coming from a number you don't see? What do I want to be, one of those people that call 300 people a day and get hung up on?
You're worried about autocracy collapsing the entire American fabric. Like you can't make a few calls?
No, I have voiced my opinion on polls and other things, and submitted my thoughts of how.
And now your son's influential podcast,
and now your podcast. But
yeah,
it's not. I'm not the type to get on the phone and convince people. I'm not. It's just not my style.
Last thing, and earmuffs for anybody listening with children in the car. Mom, would you like to call Nikki Haley a bitch? You can call her one time. Just go ahead. You can call her a bitch if you want right here on this show. Get it on the record.
I'm just incredibly disappointed.
But you want to say something mean. You want to. I can see it. I can see it. You want it.
I'm not mean-spirited.
Just a real gutless bitch.
No,
don't you want to call her that?
No. I'm just.
I can't bait you into it. I know. I need clickbait for this episode. You can't help me out. I got to feed your granddaughter on this thing.
She's weak and disappointing. Not a bitch.
Nikki Haley, not your granddaughter.
Yes, Nikki Haley.
Yeah, Nikki Haley.
She's weak and disappointing.
And disappointing.
Now she's become another ass kisser.
Oh, there we go. That? We got a curse word. That's what I wanted. Mom, obviously, go donate to Biden 2024 after listening to this rousing pitch from Gloria Young. Is there anything, any parting words you want for our audience here?
Protect our democracy.
There we go. All right. Gloria Young, thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you for having me. Regards to everyone.
And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics, written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. I would like to thank my mom for joining the show. If you'd like to email us, it is theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Follow, find, and share video clips of the show. TikTok, Justin R. Young. Instagram, Justin R. Young. Our YouTube. We're building a little YouTube community. It's pretty good. It's good to find new people, and YouTube does help find new people. So head on over there right now. Join the team. It's Politics on YouTube. Just search for that. Search for Justin Robert Young. You'll find me there as well. But youtube.com/@politics. Twitter is PX3Tweets. Justin R. Young as well. The podcast is px3podcast.com. It's where you can find the audio version of the show. You want to hit us with a one-time donation on PayPal. It is paypal.me/payjury. Venmo is Justin-Young-20. Cash App is PX3 Cash. And you can send me anything you'd like in the mail. P.O. Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. Of course, the only way that you can get our bonus content is Take Politics Seriously. $3 tier gets you 2 bonus podcasts per week covering all the news that we miss on our free podcasting schedule. And our $10 tier gets you that, plus your name read in the Titanic. $10 tier. Sugar Brady, Sam, John, Niemeister, Edwin, Invoke Gloria Young for King of the New World Order, Brian, Edison, Jeremy, a dog named Checkers, Sarah Jeannie, Matthew, Dr. G, Shad, Chill, Dustin, Brad, D Laser, Nick, Just Another Pilot, Middle-Aged Mike, Utah Jimmy Montana, The Jen, Alo, D, Really? Andrew, Lisa, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Devon, the CFP, Gloria, Gray Zone, Peapod, Jay, Neil, John, DP4 Bongo, Neil, His Nerdiness Charles, Audrey stole Adler's spot, Darren, Idris Arslani and Berkeley Stephen, Pneumatic Terran, Molly's Delightful Demeanor, Adam, Chief Andy, Robert, Casey, Paul, and Blue, Fran, and the Lanina. That's it. That's the show. Those are the shows for the week. Started on Monday. I was in Florida. If you listen to the PX3 Extra, I'm already in D.C. Oh, my Lord. Globe trotting. Not really the globe. North America tropping. America hopping. Justin Robert Young signing off. A reminder that some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, and still more discuss politics. But this is the only show that dares discuss. Oh, 3.